Okay, so the Taylor Parker trial was not in session today, and it's going to be in session on Monday. But let's see what happened over at the George Wagner trial. Let me see, ballistics evidence, blood patterns took center stage today. So a special agent with the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation was testifying on Friday in the Pike County Massacre trial. Special Agent Shane Hanshaw was the only witness to take the stand, and he testified for 7 hours. All about ballistics evidence, blood patterns, shoe prints that were found in the trailer that belonged to Chris Rhoden Sr., where his bloody body and the bloody body of Gary Rhoden were found. He is a veteran investigator. He first became a peace officer in 1990. He's now a certified expert in criminal investigations, ballistics, and bloodstain analysis. He joined the BCI in 2005 from the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office, where he started his career. Hanshaw is one of the many law enforcement officials who converged on the Rhoden family property, which is off of Union Hill, on the morning of April 22nd, 2016. He was assigned to gather evidence at the trailer, one of the 3 crime scenes that they attended to that day, and he told jurors that he saw bullet holes in the trailer wall and door frame, but not in the door itself, leading him to believe the door was open when the shots were fired. He explained how he carefully documented and photographed as much of the property as possible. He had a 3D scanner that he brought in to take images, measurements, and take the elevations. And I quote him saying, "What I want to do is paint a picture for the purposes of why we are here today. I want to walk you through what I would have seen and show to you." He showed them several photos that he took of the layout of the property, showing several vehicles, a semi-truck, the trailers where the family lived, a chicken coop, a barn, where the dogs and the other large livestock were kept. He showed patterns of spatter stains throughout the trailer, including on the ceiling. Blood evidence further indicates, according to Hanshaw, that at least one body was moved from the living room to the kitchen and then to the bedroom, where it was ultimately found. He documented multiple shoe prints where someone tracked blood around the apartment. When the prints were dry when investigators arrived, and they marked them by covering them with parchment. He then used leucocrystal violet to hold the blood in place and preserve the prints, which is the standard practice. Investigators photographed and documented the footprints before cutting out them of the floor, but they cut them right out of the floor. The prints were photographed multiple times before and after the application of the chemicals and under various lighting conditions with various lenses. He unsealed 3 cutout sections of the floor containing 3 separate prints. Let me see if I can get you the pictures of those. Let me see here. Let's see here. I don't know if they showed, they might not, because they don't always show everything, but let's see. He showed this. The ballistic evidence. Which was showing the bullet jacket fragments were at 14 15 is the bullet. So 14 is here. That's the bullet jacket fragments. This is the front porch. 15 is the bullet over here. And then they go to 25 right here, which is another bullet jacket fragment. 26 is another, which is over here. And then 33 is a .40 caliber cartridge case. So 33 is over here by the table. There's a treadmill, a table. Remember, the one of the people first arriving, not a first responder, a family member, had to go over that treadmill in order not to disturb the crime scene. So 33 is over here, and that's the .40 caliber cartridge case. And then 38 is, where's 38? 25, 41, 38. This right here is a bullet. And then 40 is a bullet jacket fragment. And then 41 here is the speaker that contained the bullet jacket fragment. And 42 is a bullet jacket fragment over here. And 60 is the bullet from underneath the trailer. So 60 over here. And you see that there is a reclining chair here. I think it's a recliner. It's some type of a, chair. Okay. And this is another photo of going into that trailer. So shoe prints, body prints, and stuff like that. Let's see what this is. Here's another. This is the two, and there's another aerial shot of that. Okay, so let's go back to what happened. He then referred to evidence showing a trail of blood near and inside the kitchen. He said he found it remarkable that the blood trail on the floor in the kitchen going towards the bedroom was stamped with footprints indicating whoever dragged the bodies to the bedroom returned by the same path. Before the day ended, the prosecutor briefly returned to ballistic evidence, a shell casing found in the kitchen. Hanshaw said he submitted it for DNA testing on the small chance that it would yield a result, even though the heat of firing the weapon usually destroys DNA. Pike County Common Pleas Court Judge Randy Deering is allowing all witnesses to decide if they want their testimony recorded and shown. More first responders, including top law enforcement officers such as Pike County Sheriff Tracy Evans and the Sheriff's Corporal Adam Ball, are opting out. Hanshaw agreed to allow his testimony to be recorded and shown after originally only opting for the audio. Two men who testified Thursday about the victims, Kenneth Rhoden, also allowed their testimony to be recorded and shown, and his son, Luke Rhoden, and his cousin, Daniel Strong. Strong was visibly emotional on the stand. We talked about that yesterday. Okay, so let's go back to now Alex Jones, which there was a really stupid thing that Alex Jones did. They trolled the judge and put weird glasses on her and put her on their InfoWars website. Can you even believe that? Yeah. Yeah. So let me see if I can get that. I'll show you the picture of that. Unbelievable. Let's see if they... This, yeah. This is what he did. Can you even imagine this? Not too smart. So Alex Jones has mocked the judge in his latest Sandy Hook defamation case and branded the trial a kangaroo court on his InfoWars show. The far-right conspiracy theories lies are back on display once again this week at his second defamation trial that began in Connecticut on Tuesday. Mr. Jones was successfully sued by the families of victims of the 2012 Sandy Hook elementary mass shooting, after he spread lies that the massacre was a hoax and that the young victims were actors. Jurors will now decide how much Alex Jones must pay the families in damages for the years of harassment they faced because of his actions. But in court on Friday, jurors were shown evidence that this right-wing extremist is refusing to take the case seriously and that he has already taken to mocking the court proceedings on the very same platform that he used to push falsehoods about the 26 victims. Hold on one second. So the prosecutor for the lawyer for the victims' families, Maddie, showed the court a... why is this getting around in here? Hold on a minute. Something's wacky. It's... get away. A photo which was taken from the InfoWars website this week, and it takes the Connecticut Superior Court Judge Barbara Bellis with glasses, red glasses, and lights coming out of her eyes with the words contempt plastered across it. And then Alex Jones, Kangaroo Court, watch day one. This is really, hold on, something is happening to what I'm trying to read here. Oh my gosh, are you serious with this? What is this? Get away. Okay, here we go. The disrespectful photo of the judge was presented in court by Mr. Maddie, and it aims to show that Mr. Jones has and continues to try to profit from the pain he has caused to the Sandy Hook families. On Thursdays, jurors were shown internal InfoWars documents detailing the spike in revenue, how much money he just shot up like crazy, and web traffic, how that just flew up there after an article that claimed no one died at Sandy Hook was posted on the InfoWars website in 2014. Alex Jones began spouting false claims almost immediately after the 2012 massacre in Newtown, Connecticut. He claimed he was claiming on his conspiracy site that the mass shooting was a giant hoax. The victims were all crisis actors. He then started to push the lies to his followers for years, claiming it was a false flag operation. Alex Jones profited financially from spreading these lies. The victims' families were subjected to years of in-person and online harassment and threats from Alex's followers. Several lawsuits were brought against Alex Jones, all of which he lost. Last month, the first lawsuit finally went to trial in Texas, and Alex was ordered to pay $4.11 million in compensatory damages and $45.2 million in punitive damages to Neil Heslin, Scarlett Lewis, the parents of 6-year-old victim Jesse Lewis. In the testimony at that trial, Mr. Jones admitted he knew the massacre was real. And there was also Lenny Posner in that other lawsuit, which I don't see that's on here. What's the matter? Is someone calling me? Oh, I thought someone said something. Okay. I thought somebody was like, you're muted. Did you know you're muted? Make sure that we're not muted. Sorry, I'm just making sure that I'm not muted. Oh, where is this? Come on, why isn't this showing? Retry. Thank you. Okay, hang on. This is... What's the matter?
Yeah, 12.
Okay. Let me just make sure that we're not muted. Okay, we're not muted. And... let's go back to... Alex, and I just want to go on to the... Okay. Now let's go over the testimony now. Hang on. So Miss Paz was also on there. She was asked about, she was on there again today, asked about InfoWars videos that showed Alex Jones and guests using lies and misinformation to claim that the massacre was staged. She acknowledged that much of what was said was not true. She would say, like, he'd say, well, that was a lie. And she was like, well, yeah, that wasn't correct. She was just that. In the videos, Jones said the school shooting was a giant hoax and the fakest thing since the $3 bill. He said that there were aerial images of student actors running around in circles in and out of the school, but they were actually of the nearby firehouse. But he said it was the school, and why would people be running in and out of the school? He just lies about everything. And he claimed that CNN was using green screens in fake interviews with people in Sandy Hook. So there were footage of Anderson Cooper sitting with victims' parents, and Alex Jones was saying, no, Anderson Cooper is not really sitting there with them. It's a green screen. He's not there. Just so many lies. So the attorney, Maddie, showed an email from a company executive showing internal conflict within InfoWars about continuing to discuss conspiracy theories about the school shooting. And a quote from that email is, the Sandy Hook stuff is killing us. This was written by Paul Watson, the InfoWars editor, asking why the company was risking its reputation and their audience by harassing the parents of deceased children. Last month, again, a jury in Texas awarded the parents of one of the slain Sandy Hook children nearly $50 million in a similar lawsuit against Alex Jones and his company. So his corporate rep has acknowledged that InfoWars broadcasted misinformation. She also acknowledged that Jones did not check the qualifications of a guest who appeared numerous times on the show, who was a conspiracy theorist who claimed to be a school security expert, who had been investigating a 1999 massacre at the Columbine High School in Colorado, and even as Alex Jones boasted of his credentials, and InfoWars received emails questioning the guest's credibility. His corporate rep testified that she believes Alex Jones and his companies made at least $100 million in the decade since the massacre, and that Alex Jones is now worth millions of dollars. Website traffic data reports run by InfoWars employees are presented at trial also show that by 2016, his show aired on 150 affiliate radio stations, and the InfoWars website got 40 million page views a month. Maddie showed Paz internal InfoWars emails between employees sharing Google Analytics data. Paz earlier testified that she was told by InfoWars employees that they didn't use Google Analytics regularly to track website viewing data. After showing her the emails, Maddie asked if it was still her testimony that they did not regularly use Google Analytics, and she said, "I don't know at this point." Jones now said he believes the shooting happened, but he insists his comments were protected by free speech rights, which he cannot argue at trial because he has already been found liable for damages. The families say the emotional and psychological harm to them was profound and persistent. Relatives say they were subjected to social media harassment, death threats, strangers who were videotaping them and their children, and the surreal pain of being told that they were faking their loss. Jones's lawyer, Norm Pattis, who was also the lawyer for Fotis Dulos, said in his opening statements on Tuesday that the damages should be minimal and claimed the families were exaggerating the harm that they said they have suffered. On his show on Thursday, Alex Jones once again called the proceedings a show trial. The judge now has to carry out this fraud, he said, but across the legal community, people are just saying, this is something worthy of Venezuela. This is unbelievable. Understand that comment as well. Okay. So let's go now to the true crime headlines. So a 2-year-old in Oklahoma has been found dead after disappearing from his family's home early Monday morning. Aris Muse was found deceased in, Okfuskee County Monday, and it was around a half a mile from his home. The child's father told police that the little boy climbed into the family bed at around 1:30 a.m. on Monday morning. When the family woke up at 6 a.m., he was gone. They conducted a 12-hour search, and over 20 area law enforcement agencies were involved. The child's body was found at 6:30 p.m. on Monday. Police continue to investigate, but so far have not said whether foul play was involved, and they declined to say how the little boy died. It's so horrible. We talked all day about wanting a good outcome, and we didn't get that, said Jason Salzman, Muscogee Creek Nation's press secretary, and during a news conference said, after a long day and an extensive search with over 20 plus agencies involved, I have the unfortunate responsibility to let everyone know that we did find the boy. Unfortunately, we found him deceased. Oh, that's so sad. It's a developing story, and additional information will be released as it becomes available. That's really sad. Okay. A Louisiana school bus driver was arrested on Tuesday, one day after he allegedly held a 13-year-old against her will, and he made inappropriate comments to her. Bresley police say that Christopher Taplin, 33 years old, was supposed to drop the 13-year-old girl off at her middle school, but he kept her on the bus and let the other students leave. He then drove to a high school to drop off the remaining students so that he could speak to the little girl alone. While on the bus, Taplin allegedly told the 13-year-old girl that he loved her. He also left a voicemail to her parents in which he professed his love for her and revealed how he has been watching her since she started attending middle school. He kept her on the bus for 10 minutes, and following the exchange, he drove her back to the middle school and allowed her to leave. He is charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, stalking a juvenile. The West Baton Rouge Parish School Superintendent said that the independent bus company that employs Taplin has terminated him. Police are reportedly investigating possible allegations that he was inappropriate with another minor. That is filed under creepy, creepy, creepy. Yuck. Okay. Okay, so coroners ruled on Thursday that the July death of a 7-year-old boy at a children's residential center in Kentucky was a homicide, which sparked the firing of 2 of their workers. The Louisville Courier-Journal reported that Jason Terry died of positional asphyxia, or the inability to move his body in a manner to allow him to breathe. Terry suffered the fatal injury on July 17th at the Bellwood and Brook Lawn, and its parent company, 7 Counties Services, confirmed it terminated 2 employees involved in the boy's death. The company did not name the 2 employees or what role they played in the boy's death. The boy entered foster care years earlier after his mother ran into undisclosed legal issues. No charges have been filed with Terry's death. That's really sad. A longtime Disney World employee has been arrested for soliciting children for S and says the children are his addiction. A Disney World employee has been identified as one of the 13 alleged S predators arrested during a Florida undercover sting. Multiple teachers, the Disney worker, and members of law enforcement were among those caught in a recent undercover prostitution sting that started in Central Florida last month. It resulted in the rescue of at least 2 victims of S trafficking. The week-long operation started on April 29th and resulted in 52 felony charges and 216 misdemeanor charges against the 160 accused who allegedly agreed to meet up for S in response to online escort advertisements. One of those 13 members was a Disney employee, Kevin Sanders, who was taken into custody at Disney World, according to Sheriff Grady Judd with the Polk County Sheriff's Office. Sanders is accused of grooming a 13-year-old girl, telling her about the kinds of acts he wants, intimate acts, and then warning the child to be careful because of her age. During questioning by investigators, Sanders reportedly admitted that he has been talking with a child about those matters and that he had done this for years and that children were his addiction. Sanders is facing charges of transmitting harmful material to a minor, using his computer to solicit a child for those types of relations. And the online prostitution industry enables traffickers and allows for the continued victimization of those who are being trafficked, said Sheriff Judd in a statement after the arrests. Our goal is to identify victims, offer them help, and arrest those who are fueling the exploitation of human beings and those profiting from the exploitation of human beings. Prostitution is not a victimless crime. It results in exploitation, disease, dysfunction, drug and alcohol addiction, violence, and broken families. Okay, a former deputy attorney general living in Nevada was arrested on Tuesday for the unsolved murder in 1972 of a woman in Hawaii. Tudor Chinlaw Jr., 77, was arrested in Reno, Nevada for fatally stabbing Nancy Anderson, 19, at her apartment in Honolulu half a century earlier. Anderson was found covered in blood and stab wounds to her chest, and cops determined that she died from a hemorrhage caused by a stab wound to the heart. Anderson's roommate believed that she had took her own life and no arrests were made. A break in the cold case came in December of 2021 when someone reportedly identified Chirilia as a possible suspect. 2 months later, Reno police confirmed the former attorney general lived in the area. In March of 2022, Honolulu police obtained a DNA sample from the suspect's son, who lives in California. Investigators determined that the DNA belonged to the son of the DNA located at the crime scene. The son also stated that his parents lived in Hawaii at the time of Anderson's slaying. Chirilia tried to kill himself on September 8th, 2 days after police collected a DNA sample from him. On September 12th, Hawaii police determined that Chirila's DNA matched DNA found on a towel near Anderson's body. He was arrested in Nevada the following day. Chirila is scheduled to appear in court sometime this week. He's also expected to be extradited to Hawaii, where he'll face charges for Anderson's second-degree murder. Wow, it's a long time coming in. He tried to commit suicide. A former Florida Christian school teacher has been arrested again. Yes, multiple times now. And she's now facing additional charges after allegedly having inappropriate contact with students. Last Tuesday, Julie Hoover, 39, was arrested and charged with authority figure soliciting or engaging in lewd conduct with a student and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. The incident marks the second time that Julie Hoover was arrested this year. Hoover was also arrested in June and charged with 1 count of authority figure soliciting or engaging in sex with a student. The latest charges came about after a student told police that Hoover twerked on him during the school prom and then pressured him to drink alcohol. The student said other students tried to get in between him and Hoover as she twerked, making him highly uncomfortable. 2 other people reportedly corroborated the student's story. Hoover's first arrest came after an 18-year-old student's parents contacted the school after Hoover had been allegedly trying to find a time to meet up with the student while her husband was away. The teacher had exchanged text messages with the student, who was in at least one of her classes between March and April of 2022. Hoover has worked at the school since 2018 as a math teacher. She's been employed as the finance director of the Boys and Girls Clubs, according to a news station. She graduated from St. Leo University. An official with the school confirmed that Hoover is no longer an employee there. Mrs. Hoover is a former teacher with Point of Grace Christian. We will not provide further information on her employment or her departure from our school. Okay, Virginia police are searching for 2 suspects who robbed an elderly couple in their Portsmouth area home on Wednesday. The incident happened at a residence off of the 2600 block of Turnpike Road at about 1:50 p.m. A Ring doorbell camera captured the moment 2 men dressed in dark clothing forced the couple by gunpoint into the living room. Police say the pair stole a wallet and a safe before fleeing the house. They could be driving an orange 2017 Dodge Charger with a Virginia tag UBS 7788. The suspects have been identified as Mitchell Boney Jr., 25, and Tyree DeMont Boney Jr., 22. Both are now wanted on numerous charges, including burglary, conspiracy to commit burglary, abduction, and firearm use. Anyone with information about the pair's whereabouts is urged to contact police at 757-393-8536. Very, very odd. I think we are caught up on that. Let me see. There was another, did I just hear there was another? Okay, let me go over here. Hold on a minute. Come on. Okay, let's see what this is. A new inquest has revived the theory that Melissa Caddick faked her own death. The Australian woman who went missing in November of 2020 was under investigation for a pyramid scheme that conned family and friends out of $20 to $30 million when she disappeared without a trace. Caddick managed to pull off the scam for over 8 years, or so she thought, before investigators showed up to raid her home on behalf of the Australian Securities and Investment Commission. The November 11th, 2020 raid was the last time Caddick was seen. The following February, remember this one? A foot washed ashore on a Bournda beach on the New South Wales South Coast, which led authorities to believe that Caddick was dead. But did she fake her own death? Did she go as far as to cut off her foot to fake her own death? The inquest has heard that it's very unlikely that Ms. Caddick amputated her own foot. However, a forensic pathologist was unable to determine whether her foot was separated due to a blunt force, sharp force, or decomposition before it washed ashore. Some believe that Caddick may have evaded legal responsibility by faking her death rather than having been murdered or dying by suicide. The only evidence suggesting Caddick is dead is the partial remains that were found months after her passing, but theorists argue this is not enough. Some believe she could be living without her foot and still be alive and be in hiding. She looks very familiar to me. Criminologist Dr. Xanthi Mallet said it's possible she's alive at the extreme end of what's possible, and what we've recovered is a foot. And medically, you can survive without your foot. It wouldn't be impossible to disappear when you have that much money. As an investigator, I couldn't rule it out, but that's what's possible and likely are what's possible and likely are two very different things. However, due to how bodies decay in water, it is not uncommon for feet in shoes to wash up on shores, even when other remains are never found. The inquest into the 49-year-old's disappearance and death is ongoing. She had made many enemies. She had set up a financial firm in 2009 after working in the industry for several years. Although she isn't licensed, she began small, but by 2012, she started her 8-year-long operation that led to the investigation. Authorities believe that Caddick misappropriated misappropriated about $30 million in funds from family and friends during that time. She showed them false documentation that led them to believe their investments were making money from their shares. Caddick and her then husband, Anthony Coletti, spent more than $600,000 per year funding their lavish lifestyle using the proceeds of the pyramid scheme. Caddick's fraudulent activity was first reported by a client. One of her clients bumped into another person who knew Caddick and said Caddick was using her license to manage investments. The client then reported the fraud to the Australian Securities Investment Commission. 3 months later, the ASIC froze Caddick's assets and prevented her from leaving the country, and the next day, authorities from the agency raided her home. Officers confiscated luxury fashion items, jewelry, and home furnishings, and that's the last day that she was seen alive. Her son is believed to have heard her leave for a run at 5:30 a.m. on November 12, 2020. She left behind her phone, her wallet, and her keys. She failed to show up to surrender her passport and any pending plane tickets that afternoon at 4 p.m. Coletti, the husband, ultimately waited 30 hours before formally reporting his wife missing. In February of 2021, a severed foot washed up on the New South Wales south coast on Bourne Beach. 5 days later, DNA testing confirmed the foot belonged to Caddick, who is presumed dead at this point. Because her family schemed friends and because Caddick schemed family and friends, there's reason to believe that if someone is responsible for her death, it could be someone close to her. On the second day of the inquest, Detective Sergeant Michael Kainur said that Caddick's husband's behavior when reporting her missing in the aftermath was suspicious. The investigator, the senior-most officer on the case, said that Caddick was inconsistent in his account of his wife's last known whereabouts. He didn't appear to be overly concerned, he told the court. In my experience, if your spouse or loved one goes missing, there is usually some genuine concern or some type of emotion. That said, he doesn't believe that Coletti hurt Caddick. However, suspected that she'd either died by suicide or was voluntarily missing, and Coletti may know more than he has let on. So, interesting. Back to where we were. Okay. Come on, get over there. A New York City man has admitted Friday that he viciously beat his mother and then he sliced her throat to get his hands on her $11 million fortune. Okay, how'd that work out for you? Good. Jared Ang, 25, pled guilty to 1 count of second-degree murder as part of a plea deal for the grisly murder of Paula Chin, 65. She was murdered in her lower Manhattan apartment on January 30th, 2019. He's scheduled to be sentenced to a minimum of 18 years to life in prison on October 18th. This was a brutal and shocking murder of the defendant's own mother, and while nothing can undo the tragedy, today's guilty plea represents an important step towards justice, said Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. Chin's other son reported her missing in February of 2019, days after Ang stuffed her corpse into a garbage can at the family home in Morristown, New Jersey. Ang had bludgeoned his mother to death, slit her throat, before calling 2 friends for help. He told one friend his mother took a while to die. Then the 3 scrubbed down the Tribeca apartment. They hoisted his mother's body into the black SUV and dumped it at their weekend home in New Jersey, where police later found her decomposing remains. In a series of incriminating text messages, the son wrote, "It's done, and I'm free." The wayward son wasted no time trying to access his mother's estate. In the days after the murder, changing the passwords to her bank accounts, and searching for inheritance lawyers. The internet queries were scattered among Google searches for ways to dispose of his mother's body, such as DIY bone meal. The friends who helped him were charged with lesser crimes, including concealment of a human corpse. Their cases are still pending. Eng's attorney could not immediately be reached to comment on the case. Okay. So a woman searching for her lost dog in Ohio discovered something else. A set of bones that turned out to be a woman who went missing 5 years ago. The remains were found last month in a wooded area on the east side of Youngstown, Ohio. They were wrapped in cloth and taken into the Mahoning County Coroner's Office. Authorities later confirmed the remains belonged to Amy Hambrick, who was 29 when she went missing, a mother, and she left her home on November 11th, 2017 to visit a friend in North Jackson. Youngstown Police Chief of Detectives Captain Jason Simon said the woman who was looking for her dog and found the remains was searching for that dog when she found the remains. Dr. Lauren Lease of the Anthropology Department at Youngstown State University and forensics dentist assembled the bones and determined it was Hambrick based on her jawbone and dental records. However, the condition of her remains has prompted her cause of death to remain undetermined. It was not clear how long the remains had been there. Every investigative avenue was utilized over the last 5 years, including countless interviews, searches of residences, the use of cadaver dogs, and the serving of legal processes on digital and cellular records. Despite the discovery, investigators are still trying to determine how Hambrick ended up in the woods and how she died. Someone knows what happened, Simon said. Hambrick left behind a daughter who was 10 years old at the time of her disappearance. Okay, let's see this. Okay, here's something. Ryan Murphy, the writer behind American Horror Story, is set to deliver a new kind of horror to Netflix. Evan Peters is going to play Jeffrey Dahmer in the upcoming Netflix series. Evan Peters is no stranger to working with Ryan Murphy. He had an ongoing role in American Horror Story as well as Pose. It has just been announced that Evans will be taking on the role as Jeffrey Dahmer in the Netflix series Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. The first trailer for the show was released on social media today, Friday, and Murphy promises there are more trailers on the way. The series will be comprised of 10 episodes, and Murphy took to Instagram to provide his own plot description for the show, and it says, and I quote, "Over the course of 10 powerful episodes, Dahmer shines a spotlight on the as-yet untold stories of Dahmer's victims, the people who tried to stop him, and the systematic failures that enabled him to continue his spree for over 10 years. Which is why we needed 2 trailers to properly showcase the complex story. The series was created by Murphy as well as Ian Brennan, who worked on American Crime Story, AHS. Oh, I remember American Crime Story. That was a good, I saw the first and second one, I think. It always reminds me of something that somebody said when they came here about somebody being murdered. But the series was created by Murphy as well as Ian Brennan, who worked on American Crime Story. The series aims to shine a new light on different angles of the man known as the Milwaukee Monster. So that should be interesting, right? Did they ever find that, whatchamacallit, woman in Colorado? Let's see what else is going on. Anything else? Anything else? Okay, here's something. I think we've talked about this one before. So, a federal jury on Friday convicted a former star of the St. Louis-based reality TV show Welcome to Sweetie Pies of arranging the shooting death of his nephew. The jury deliberated about 17 hours over 3 days before reaching its verdict in the murder-for-hire case against James Tim Norman. He was charged with conspiracy to commit murder for hire, and conspiracy to commit murder and wire fraud. Norman and his nephew, Andre Montgomery, both starred in the long-running OWN reality show about a popular soul food business founded in the St. Louis area by Robbie Montgomery, Norman's mother and Andre's grandmother. Prosecutors are not seeking the death penalty, but Norman could be sentenced to up to life in prison. Sentencing is set for December 15th. Federal prosecutors say that Norman, who's 43, hired two people to kill 21-year-old Montgomery on March 14, 2016, and then tried to cash a $450,000 life insurance policy taken out on his nephew months earlier. Defense attorney Michael Leonard said after the verdict that he and Norman were extremely surprised and disappointed in the outcome of the case. He said they plan to appeal and that Norman continues to be optimistic that he will eventually prevail. Leonard, in the testimony during the trial of two co-conspirators, was shown to be extremely non-credible, and he said Norman testified well during the trial, noting that he was not cross-examined. U.S. Attorney Sailor Fleming said she was very, very pleased with the verdict, but that her office would make no further statements until after the sentencing. During closing arguments, Assistant U.S. Attorney Angie Danis said Norman was the architect of the plan to kill Montgomery. This plan doesn't exist but for Tim Norman's greed, Danis said. Leonard argued in his closing argument that the murder plot presented by prosecutors was a made-up theory. Prosecutors say Norman paid $10,000 to an exotic dancer, Terica Ellis, to lure his nephew to his site where he was shot, and paid $5,000 to Travell Anthony Hill to shoot Montgomery. Ellis and Hill both testified for the prosecution in the case, and they have both pled guilty to participating in this scheme. In testimony during the trial, Norman said he helped his nephew move to St. Louis about 18 months before he was killed and supported him financially because he was trying to watch out for Montgomery. He said he kind of became a dad, a father figure, if you will, to his brother's son. Former Sweetie Pie employees and other character witnesses testified that Norman and his nephew had a close relationship. Danis said all the testimony from the scheme's co-conspirators was backed up by trial by text, call records, and location data. She said that Norman created an image of being a mentor and a father figure to all these people, but it's fiction. Leonard said during his closing argument that Ellis testified to get a shorter sentence and that Hill admitted he was a heavy drug user and that he hoped that he was all hopped up on drugs that day. Norman testified Tuesday that he took out the life insurance policy on his nephew to give a longtime customer of the family restaurants, Wael Revi Yaghram, some business. Yaghram pled guilty in July to conspiracy to commit murder for hire and wire fraud in the case. Montgomery left St. Louis after at least $220,000 in cash, jewelry, and other items were stolen in a June 2015 burglary at Robbie Montgomery's house. Norman told jurors that he and his mother hired a private investigator to find and confront his nephew about the robbery, but he had no intention of hurting him. So that is just crazy. Okay. And let's see. There you have that. And who's still here? Okay, so I guess it's 2:51. I'm just going to call it quits for tonight. I think it's I think I'm tired, and I'm just going to call it a night. Thank you all who came and listened, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Everybody take care. Hi, Liz Tops. How are you? Foxy in the Boxy. Hi. That girl. Hi, that girl. How are you doing? All right. We'll see you later. Okay. I'm going to end this. Good night, everybody. Prayers for all that need them. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless.